my awareness, because of the twin flame dynamic, right, I am experiencing the emotional unavailability of my divine masculine. And what is being mirrored back to me is what I see a lot in the spiritual community, with a lot of divine masculines that have the manifestation consciousness, that have the I am consciousness, but they are completely emotionally unavailable, right? The emotional aspect is the divine feminine energy in our being. And for many men, it is so uncomfortable and terrifying to be emotional, especially when we were raised in families where emotions were not encouraged, were not practiced regularly, right? When we didn't have that modeled to us from our parents. And so we have a lot of people, but in particular masculines, who completely bypass their soul aspect, their feminine aspect, the feeling, the emotional aspect. And they call that by a spiritual phrase that often sounds like, well, I am not my thoughts and I am not my emotions. I am not the emotional expression that is normal for humans, right? That's common for humans. And so they found a refuge in the cranial, in the mental knowledge of their I am self. And they are always speaking from that left brain masculine energy that, you know, has the knowledge, has the formulas, has the methods, has the solution. But that is an unbalanced spirituality, because we are here in human form, in this three-dimensional physical form of body, mind, and soul, to bring balance to that, not to deny any part of that and saying I'm not my body and I'm not my emotions, I'm just my mind, right? Well, they're not saying I'm my mind. They'll say even I'm not my mind, but they are expressing in a very mental mind fashion. So it's an illusion. It's a bypass. It's the unaware part, you know, and a lot of people use spirituality just as they used religion. Now they use spirituality to escape the unpleasant human traits, the emotional traits that cause them so much trauma and so much pain in life. So they bypass that entirely, that soul aspect, and are completely and fully in their mental ego mind. It's called a spiritual ego. It doesn't mean that you can't perform some pretty amazing spiritual miracles and magic tricks. Of course you can. But life is not just all about being able to perform miracles and magic tricks. Life is on how we are able to relate and connect to all species in this world, right? And in particular, among the human species, how we can better harmonize and get along. a bit of a lopsidedness on the spiritual community's part. People are afraid to open the can of their subconscious mind and their soul and, be confronted with what might be in there. So it's more comfortable, more pleasant to just stay in the knowledge part of esoterics, of spirituality, and not deal with the heart, not deal with the feeling part. The vulnerability is really scary for a lot of people. But vulnerability is where the strength is. There's even a scriptural verse that says, when I am weak, I am strong. When I am in my vulnerability, I am the strongest. Right? Because that is the most relatable for human beings, to expose our weakness. Strength is actually weak because we do not reveal our true self. We do not reveal our shadows. The spiritual community, the Neville Goddards, and all those that have those manifestation formulas and methods are usually all divine masculine energy that's unbalanced and does not acknowledge the feminine aspect. So we have a lot of work to do yet to acknowledge the feminine, to acknowledge the soul, to acknowledge the mother energy, right? So you'll be hearing a lot about that from me, because I am the divine feminine part in my connection. So I'm bringing the divine feminine side into the spiritual equation and try and demonstrate what it is to be more balanced.